Welcome to another episode of Anxious Black Belt, podcast that focuses on karate, mental health, and everything in between. Today, with me, Sensei Chrissie Howard. How are you today?
I'm very good, Les. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Nice to have a chat with you. Congratulations on starting your own podcast. It's growing. I'm following it, and I know that few other people following. When you share your story, your thoughts, your kind of experiences through the martial arts, which we're gonna be hopefully talking about a few of those in a minute. But I would like to start with I was listening to your podcast, so I know, but maybe not everybody knows. How did you end up in the martial arts and in particular karate?
By mistake, I would say. I was chronically shy as a child, and going into an environment with complete strangers was just not me at all, completely unheard of. But I had a real fascination for Bruce Lee, as many of us did back in the day. And I didn't think for a minute that I could do anything like that. It was just, I loved watching him. And then somebody that was working for my parents at the time, her older sister, had started karate, and my mum was telling her that I was avidly watching martial arts films. And she said, "Oh, my sister's going to a karate class. Why don't you go with her?" And I think I probably thought, no, that's probably not possible. But what swung it for me is that her sister had a Ford Capri, and I was quite excited about going into Ford Capri more than karate at the time. So I agreed. I agreed to go. It wasn't a smooth running. I was not very confident, so it took me some time to actually get into the dojo. But I did start to go. So it was Bruce Lee's fault and my mum's colleague.
Excellent. What age have you been?
10.
That's quite early start, right? So it was like a big dojo. I think I remember you said that it was a very small dojo at the beginning, and then you outgrew it, moved to the bigger one.
It was a converted garage. It was actually a judo hall. So
Hmm.
we had canvas mats, so the floor and everything was quite good. But it was tiny. It wasn't very small at all. And if you had maybe 30, 40 people in it, these days people like luxury, they like space, they don't want anybody touching them, do they? But we
Hmm.
were squished right in there, rubbing shoulders all of the time. So yeah, we weren't there very long, but not after I joined, before we moved.
And you still practicing the Shotokan karate, if I'm not mistaken, right? It was it
Yes.
the all the time. It was it all the time Shotokan karate, or have you been in trying different branches and return to Shotokan?
I've always had my feet on the ground with Shotokan throughout
Mhm.
my martial arts career, but there have been places where I've diversed. And one of the reasons was when I was training, like for the World Championships, for my first and second World Championships,
Mhm.
I joined boxing clubs. One, because I loved their fitness training,
Mhm.
and two, that the arm work was really fast. So I grew speed from working with the boxing club. And then when I moved house on one particular occasion, there was no karate classes anywhere. So all that was available to me was taekwondo. So I joined taekwondo, and that introduced me into some unarmed combat scenarios. And then after that, I joined the police. So I was getting into control and restraint and being quite handy at that and enjoying that. And then I joined the prison service. And again, my control and restraint experience expanded enormously from there. But Shotokan's always been kind of, and throughout the years, there's been a bit of Wado, there's been a bit of Goju, there's been Shitaru, there's been little tastes of other martial arts too.
That's amazing journey from the very quiet person to police to prison services. That's extraordinary, I would say.
I
How
think,
did
I
you?
think, I think when you put a uniform on, it's almost like a persona. You become, I guess it's like a singer that might be quite
Mm.
shy and withdrawn, but you give them a microphone and they switch on. And I
You know,
think that's what used to happen for me.
I'm using the exactly same analogy for my students. I work a lot with people with mental health, and they ask me because I used to suffer with an anxiety, huge anxiety. But when I put the gi on, I can be whoever I want to be because I've got that uniform, that shield, or what do you call it, like a knight's armor that
Mm.
protects me, and I can be whoever I want to be. I don't know if that's the same for you. That when you're wearing the gi, you can express yourself being whoever you want to be.
I almost feel exhausted when I take it off
Mm.
because I'm performing the entire time I've got it on. And the second it comes off, I feel like I'm spent. I've done as much performing as I possibly can.
So I'm usually asking people the same question. This is one same question that comes across from my podcast. It's what was the impact of martial arts on your mental health? It could be positive, it can be negative, or it's just something that you're so used to it that it doesn't impact you at all. What would be in your case?
It would be a mixture of both. So the positive side is it gave me a place to hide from the rest of the world. And when I've put my gi on and I'm training, I'm disconnected from everything. I'm just in that space and in that time, and I'm incredibly present. So that is healthy for any of us, right? But I guess have been experiences in karate that have made it incredibly challenging. And also, as somebody that's been a perfectionist in the past, the pressure that I put myself under as well, and the fear and the anxiety around the competing and the grading and having to teach for the first time or being asked to go and teach somewhere in front of large numbers of people, and that hadn't yet been normal for me. Those sorts of things were so challenging. I mean, almost life threatening, it felt like at the time, because you're like, I just don't want to do this. I can't go through it. And then you find yourself stood in front of people just talking about what you know about, and you kind of relax into it.
So you said that you are an ex-perfectionist. Where did that change, and how did that change, and why did that change?
I grew up, I found some maturity, and teaching children teaches me a lot. And I speak about it in this week's podcast. I watched them at a grading this week, so it happened before that. But they were running around, laughing, joking, chasing each other. And then the adults and the older kids were in the corner facing the wall, looking terrified and, really worrying about their grading. And I looked at the kids and I thought, when did we lose the joy? I thought my job is not just to teach karate, but it's to try and capture that and maintain it for people as they grow in their karate, because we change it. There's a transition from innocence that the children have into this, right, it's no longer joy, it's just pressure. And we always say, as martial artists and karateka, we always say, love it, enjoy it, while you can. But then there's elements where we put ourselves under pressure. And I think for me, the massive change came. I've had a huge life transition. I left the West Country in the UK where I lived, and I now live up in the Northeast. And that came out of COVID, losing my dad, going on a big road trip, discovering myself, realizing I was living life completely wrong, and I needed to make some changes. And actually, what am I being afraid of? Because you look at all sorts of people are doing all sorts of things, and I want to be a good representation of that, not a wallflower. I want to bring people. And the other thing I decided I didn't want to do is, 43 years of karate, I didn't want to put it in a cupboard and just leave it there. What a waste. I've been on a long apprenticeship to get me here.
I'm glad I'm hoping speaking to you now that it is working out for you, and congratulations if it does. But I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision to change your life. I kind of, maybe not to the same degree, but I moved from Poland and not knowing anybody in the UK to the UK, and you kind of rebuilding your life. But that gives you a chance to be somebody else. And because I kind of broke the ties from my previous environment, going to completely new, I kind of form again a person who I want to be without the flaws of a previous kind of condition where I've been living in and social ties and stuff. I can go in and say, here, okay, now I analyzed what I was doing wrong in the past. Now hit it, reset, do it better. Did you find something similar as well?
Yeah, eventually. I mean, I bought a dilapidated house that I've had to rebuild, and that took me some time. So I was, my attention was diverted. But once that settled, and I thought, right, how do I reestablish myself here? How do I build a community? How do I make friends? Oh, karate's a good idea. Karate helps you make friends. So I started teaching up in the local community, and it's kind of just spread. But I should have started by saying Dzień dobry, yaksimash. Now I know your
Thank you.
from
Yeah.
Poland. Yeah, so karate has been, as we all know, is a great tool for building communities, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Really, it was a chance to reinvent myself, reestablish myself. I think I'd been holding on to a lot of stuff I didn't like about myself um,
Mm.
before. There was a lot of baggage. I'd been going through a lot of stuff in my career and all sorts of things, and this was a reset for sure.
Mm. So you said you took part in world championships, a lot of different other events. How did you manage the pressure? You said you've been under the pressure. How did you manage to the pressure of preparation, stepping out onto the competition, fighting, losing and winning? Because everybody thinks that, oh, when you're winning is all superb and great, but then you go to the stage where you're winning some tournaments and there is the pressure of staying on the top, because now you're not the underdog, now you're the champion, and everybody wants to take you down. This is a
Mm.
pressure as well. So how did you work with those different pressures, and what was the impact on you, and what's your tricks to overcome those problems?
Well, firstly, my best friend through competing was my love for hard work.
Hmm.
So I loved training. I just wanted to train hard and really hard. So post competition, I would go into a little bit of a depression because you're working really, really hard for something and then it's over and you go back home and there's nothing until the next one. So
Hmm.
I guess competing for me was a tool to maintain my training. I'm not sure I would have trained quite so hard and quite consistently unless those goals were there. Um, and you have to trust your training. So you get there, your fight, flight, freeze, and fawn obviously falls out of you in those events, and you do one or the other. But what I know about karate and how I experience karate is the build up, the lead up to it. I would be physically disabled. I would be being sick. I'd be in the toilet crying because I just didn't want to do it. But once I was on the tatami, once I got my feet on the mat, everything else just went away, and the fear kind of just went. So my mum used to laugh at me because I'll lose about £10 in weight before every competition, just for through anxiety. You know, I'd be loving the training, fully focused, and then a couple of weeks before the actual event, I'd be dying inside. And I guess it's our nervous system, isn't it? And I didn't understand that at the time. I wish I did, because I probably would have managed myself a whole lot better. I just thought I was being ridiculous and stupid, and everybody said, Chrissy, you've put the work in. You don't need to be worried. And because I always did work very hard, but we're our own worst enemies with regards to criticism, aren't we? We're never enough. We've never done enough with this, that, and the other. So I don't know about tools. I wish I had my 53-year-old head back then, because being a lot wiser, I feel I'm quite gifted now with the tools I have that would have benefited me a long time ago.
Yeah, I was smiling not to take a mickey out of you, but kind of relating to a lot of things. Obviously, I haven't done as high competition as you did, But yeah, that going into into the fighting or kata or sparring or kumite, it was always a very, very stressful environment. But I kind of latched on to that feeling when everything disappears when you step on the mat and it's time to go. So I was kind of chasing. I had the same with organizing seminars and stuff like that. I chased that feeling of that emptiness, that it's just me and a job I need to do. Is it like a performance of a kata, sparring, or whatever? I kind of enjoy that peace in the storm. Is that the correct way? You know, you're fighting, you're doing stuff,
Yeah.
but the mind is empty. There's nothing else. When somebody tries to punch you in the face, it's very difficult to think about something else, isn't it?
I was just going to say, Kumite was easier to switch on and off because
Hmm.
if you don't switch on and if you're not aware and present, you're going to get punched in the face. Kata was more scary because if you've
Hmm.
got some wobbles in your legs, if your adrenaline's in there and you're the only person and everybody's looking at you, five people in fact are judging each corner and one in front of you, and then the crowd and your competitors, that was much harder. And I think you can't get away with mistakes in kata, whereas in kumite, you know, you're just dancing around, aren't you, and doing your best. But kata felt more pressured, I think.
Interesting. I done a slight change of a big change of subject, but I done a couple of years ago a series of a women's interviews with the women in martial art and the problems they facing. And I, from listening to your podcast, I know that you are a huge advocate of equality within the martial arts. And you know, we have to acknowledge that there is a problem that the women hitting a kind of a glass ceiling, and it's very difficult to break through and become the higher graded instructor within the many organizations because the top people and political disturbances and kind of men clicky power grab is an obstacle for that. Could you say about more about that? How did you experience becoming a high graded, highly awarded woman within a man dominated martial arts? I think it's changing now for a better, but when you starting training, it must have been very visible, kind of a, how to say it, division between a man instructors and women instructors.
So there wasn't. I was fortunate enough that in my first dojo there was the wife of my first instructor was kind of an assistant instructor, but had that secretary label
Mhm.
really, not really a lead person. There was no separate competition events. So if you wanted to compete, you competed against boys um,
Okay.
in the beginning. I mean, it flooded out of that very quickly after I started, but certainly my very first memories of competition was I was fighting boys, boys because of my age, obviously, and not men. And there was a female named Liz Trott who I looked up to as a kid because she was a third dan and she fought in the European Championships in Dusseldorf in Germany and came third fighting against men.
Wow.
Um, and I mean, it was, you know, back in the day, it was just unheard of, really.
Mhm.
And dare I say it, but my personal experience, and maybe Liz felt her experience was similar, is that you got battered because the boys didn't want to get beaten by girls. That's
Yeah,
just
for
how it
sure.
was. Um, and one of my friends, you know, my very first competition, I saw her get knocked out cold by a lad just before I was about to go and fight. And he was crying before he even got on the mat because he just didn't want to fight a girl for all sorts of reasons, I guess. But after that, I guess I didn't notice, I genuinely didn't notice that I was treated any different for a long, long time because I worked hard and I fought men and I trained with men in the dojo. And in all honesty, I'm quite thankful for those days because I think it made me better at karate because they're bigger, they're stronger. Of course, that's just a thing. And I think it benefited my karate from that experience. The only time when I went to start my very first dojo, teaching was in 1993-ish, I think. I got told that women don't run dojos. That was the response I got. So it didn't set off very well. But then, I've been lucky. Have been exposed to quite a few senior female instructors throughout my karate life. I guess for me personally, I don't feel like I've been disadvantaged just because I'm a woman.
Mhm.
I feel fortunate. I've been very well supported by both men and women in my karate career. There is a difference. You're right. The platform's quite empty when it comes to female instructors. I do get a bit upset when there's a karate seminar and there's a strong male lineup of instructors. Um, it's nobody's fault, I don't think. There's all sorts of reasons why women might not be breaching the ceiling. But I don't know. I don't know why it is, because there's plenty of us, and I don't know what's holding it back. I just think there's perhaps still a culture. Perhaps still there's the patriarch, the history that's attached to it, that women are still waiting for permission to step forward and do it rather than just take it. It is not our nature to step forward and grab. It's our nature to nurture and push other people before us. The psychology behind it, I think, is really tricky and it's too diverse. There's too many answers from too many different people. And I would have to speak to more women about what their challenges are to try and understand it better, I guess.
Mm. Well, I did. I spent nearly a year of speaking to different friends of mine who are a leading instructor and running their own club, but sort of more from a modern side of karate, so like practical karate and stuff like that. And one of the problems they facing is that, if they're teaching and people coming in, they want to test them. Oh, you're just a little girl. What can you teach me? They have to work harder to be recognized as an instructor in the quotes, compared to the male, right? In the same way I've got the issue sometimes like that because I'm a small man. So people are like, well, what can you do, right? So you have to put a little bit more effort into it. And because my wife is a second dan karateka as well, but since we've got the children, she had to take some time off from the karate to have the children, and returning to it is a little bit more difficult than she would like to.
Mm.
So she only returned now and after a few years break, and I think for those reasons it's a little bit harder for women to stay consistent with the training, right? And you have a break of couple of years, then you have to chase that time back to get to the fitness level that you're happy, technical abilities, and so on. So I think that's one of the problems, but as well, I think, like we said, on the seminars, you see 90% of men coming in, at least for seminars that we're running. It's open to everybody. We don't discriminate. We welcome women instructors as well, but it is 90% of men. And I don't know what the reasons are. Uh, I had usually my dojos for a long time been about 70% of women, 40% of men. But during the COVID, something have changed. I think the COVID impacted women harder or in different ways because we went to zero women in the club, so
Wow.
100% men. And only now, after what, 3, 4 years, we're starting to see women returning to training. And I don't know why. It must have been a different impact. So, did you notice that difference as well? How the COVID situation impacted you in terms of training and other ladies?
Well, I think Karate World exploded during COVID because we went
Mm.
mad online, and I was training every day somewhere else in the world with
Mhm.
somebody else and some different instructors. I was teaching online all over the world. So I didn't experience any kind of harm through COVID other than physical contact. Coming out of COVID, quite honestly, I would probably say no. I think the students I had at the time were ready to come back. I was ready to go back. Before I moved up here, I had quite a small number of students. Up here, it's just exploded, and I'm probably about a 50-50 split, men and women in the dojos that I run.
Well, that's great. I suppose for you, you're attracting more women because you're a woman, right? From what I'm talking with my students, it is a big thing for them to step in through the doors to a group of men strangely wearing their, uniforms, doing bizarre stuff like bowing and using Japanese name. But now, when I've got that first one, then it's easier for the second one and easier for the third one, fourth one. So it's now getting more female friendly. Not that, we ever been like, oh, no, no women, don't come in here. Always been welcoming, but it is a intimidating to step into the room full of just men.
I get that for sure. But what my experience as a teacher is speaking to my male students, they have the same anxieties as what the women do coming into the dojo. So there's some differences, but there's also some similarities as well in the experience of the person. Even if it's an older man coming in, thinks, oh, I can't do this, I haven't got physical ability anymore. I'm just like, we'll just come in and try. But yeah, there's all sorts of reasons why all sorts of people have anxiety going into the dojo. And I think some of us just wear it better. If somebody
Mhm.
walks in proud with their first class, that's not what I see at all. I see some fear under there as well.
Mhm. It is stressful for everybody, every
Mm.
time when you're stepping into the new world. It doesn't have to be martial arts. And any new group of people, you always got some kind of fear and anxiety. And it might be chess club and karate club or football club. There's always that discomfort that you need to come out from your safety bubble and do something different
It's tribal, isn't it?
mm,
If we look back to our ancestry, it was a game of survival. If we lost our community, our instinct would be to join another community because it's
mhm,
safety in numbers. But that community, there was a risk of them not accepting us, and they would either kill us or we'd run away. So I think that trauma impact is in our DNA. So that
mhm,
fear of joining new communities, there's a fear of rejection, whether that be subconscious or not. So,
mhm.
like you say, it doesn't matter if it's karate, chess, or swimming, or anything else. It's that kind of fear of the tribe rejecting us.
Mhm. Speaking of creating community, how do you create a positive, supportive community within your club? Because I'm finding, especially with people with disabilities and people with mental health issues, when they're coming to my club, um, the thing they report to me is that they feel that they can be themselves. They are welcome in my club, they can be themselves, and we kind of non-judgmental. How do you create a positive in your dojo?
Well, I think that the boundaries are there right from the start. Um, this is an inclusive environment. That's it. What I've noticed leaving the West Country to the Northeast is there's not so much diversity in the community as there is when I was living in the city.
Mhm,
So, there is it has been some challenges, but that's my job to make sure that everybody that comes in joins,
mhm,
they get treated like this, and they treat the next person like that. And you deliver that message hard and fast and frequently. This is
mhm,
how it is in this club. And I've always been a bit like, if you don't like it, then don't come back. This is how it is. We accept everybody, and like you, I have people with mental health challenges. I have people with additional needs. I have lots of SEN people coming in now, lots of autism, and was it much harder to manage that environment when it's
mm,
so diverse and so wide. But I'm not going to shut the door. And I've reflected on this recently because when I was a kid and I was training, everybody was good at karate. And I've made an observation since, and I think it was because my instructor at the time had quite a big ego. And I think if you weren't good, you didn't get to stay. You were all uniform, you were all like soldiers, you all
mm,
looked quite similar, and you were all quite successful. Where was all the difference? I didn't see any difference in there. It was just one type of karateka. Now in any dojo, it's just full of color. And I
Mm,
love that because it challenges me too as a teacher. It's not easy for me to have all of this difference in my dojo because I've got to have different eyes, I've got different ears, I've got to, not everybody wants to compete. Not everybody wants to come to every class. Some people want to come once a fortnight, and I have to manage that, and bring them all in. Because, when people say karate is for everybody for all of their life, well, then it should be. It's a
mm.
completely inclusive environment. Of course, we'll always have the sport karateka, will always have the people that have become champions and excel at it and want to become instructors in the future. But the rest of them, they want a part of it too, and that's okay. And that's how I sell it. It's for everybody.
Excellent. Yeah, I do the same. And as you said, it is a challenge, but I think this is a positive challenge. I love it. I love like was today I was teaching the Teki on a Hanchi drill, and we have people who can only sit down, people who can't
Yeah.
hear, people who've got a different issues. I think this is the whole fun part for me as an instructor to all the time sharpening my tools because every day I'm coming across something different, something unique, and it challenges me to be a better instructor, better coach, because I have to adapt on the spot. I cannot go like, oh, today we're doing do this, 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 and this. I've got some kind of plan, but I have to adapt on the go, and that's what I enjoy the most in the coaching side of martial arts.
Yeah. So in a couple of weeks, I'll be teaching a dementia group, a couple of dementia
Mm,
groups. What a great opportunity, I think. But it
mhm,
will be very different. There'll be karate, there'll be a theme going through it, but it's not going to be like one of my regular classes. They're not going to be marching up and down the hall. Some of them are going to be seated. Some of them are going to have a carer supporting them. So it will
mm.
be, it's quite exciting. And like you say, it's a positive challenge.
Yeah, I'm working with the dementia group for about a year. He's getting, you're answering a lot of same questions every week
Yeah.
because people don't remember what we've done. But it's fun and I like people's stories. So for
Mm.
example, we went with Hanshi Mark House was with visiting our dojo this weekend and I took him around Guildford and we went to a oh God, just lost the word for it in English, to cathedral, where the Omen was filmed. And there was one lady, elderly lady, doing a tour, and it turns up that is one of my students. So we went to say hello, and they start talking about the uh, Navy because Hanshi Mark was brought up as a naval child. And she could recall every single thing from her past, including she was doing a Morse code translations. So she
Mhm.
was just reading something and tapping it with a Morse code, but she can't remember where the classes are.
Oh,
Can't
yeah.
really remember me. So it's amazing how the human brain works and I love listening to this people's stories. That's why I'm doing a podcast, really. So
Yeah.
if I can get some information from the past and how the people's manage to live through their life and how to achieve success and stuff like that, I like to steal information and implement it to my own life. So teaching different people is always interesting. I don't know where
Agree.
did I went with this, but so you're teaching different groups. How do you get into the teaching the dementia clientele? Is that you on choice chose to that path, or is it because you're running a successful dojo, people approach you and hey, this is might be a good idea to do that?
Yeah, so this is the first time since I've been here, I've had people contacting me from all types of areas and groups. I've never had that before. I've just had my student population.
Mhm.
So hospice care run the dementia services up in the northeast, and they contacted me and said, "How about doing this? Are you up for that?" So I'll take a few kids with me because the older people love to see them cracking on. They
Yeah.
can do some little demonstrations, and then we'll get them moving a little bit too.
Awesome. That's great that people contacting you to you're starting to make your own footprint in the new place and people
I'm being
can
quite
tap in
noisy.
and
I'm being quite noisy.
That's okay. Well, if it works for you, it works for you, right? So you need to put yourself out there. You can be having a best program and people don't know about you. nothing's gonna happen, right?
True.
So how did you come up to a creating a podcast? What's the kind of thought behind it, and what was your motivation to do it?
I've been writing a book for quite a long time called My Karate, My Life, which obviously is
Mhm.
what my podcast is called. And I thought it's been going on for a while and I don't have a lot of sit down time. But what my brain does is when it gets a free moment, it just spews. So if I get an opportunity, I'll spend several hours writing and then I don't get any time again for a while. But with the podcast, I thought, well, one, I could introduce the book because what I'm sharing is some of that is coming out of the book. And something happened recently and I experienced some abuse from my very first instructor. And when that happened, I lost my voice quite a lot because I sought help and nobody helped me. It was kind of all
Mhm.
shut down. And I think, strangely enough, I think if you believe in chakras, you've got a throat chakra. I think mine closed at that point, and I just wasn't able to speak. I wasn't able to really talk to people, and but it just shut me down because the people shut me down. The people I would relied on shut me down. I just shut down. And more recently, I've been speaking to the police about this historical offences,
Mhm.
and they were so kind. They were everything I should have experienced when I was a kid.
Mhm.
And I just felt like they took the lid off me. Once I'd been heard and once I shared the story, I just felt free of it. I just felt so much lighter and I just came to life. You know, I can see it in my work, my day to day work. I can see it in my teaching. I can see it in how I'm speaking and presenting to people. And I just thought, I just want to talk to people now. I'm ready to talk to the world. So it took off some shackles, really.
Mhm.
And I will thank Devon and Cornwall Police for that particular officer because he was amazing. He was amazing, and I can't thank him enough for giving me my voice back because that's exactly what he did. So that's how it happened, really.
Oh, excellent. Great to hear that you had the support from police because they're getting a lot of negativity
Mm.
for kind of inaction or not lack of action. So great to see that people pushed you. Tell me more about the book. So I tell you, for me, it was the opposite. So I published a book saying to everybody what was happening to me through the book. And it's like the weight dropped off my shoulders. Now everybody knows, so I can move on, right? Done it,
Yeah,
dusted, go.
yeah.
So I'm kind of on the opposite side to you. You felt the release. Now you're gonna be writing the book. Um, how is it going? How you find the process of writing book? What is your way to write the book? So I am very scattered mind person. Um, uh, I do writing like 15 minutes a day if I've got a feeling for it. So something pops in, I write it down and then create something from that. What is your process and how you work with it?
I think I've been writing for, I love writing, and I'll go back to having lost my voice. When I lost my voice, I found it much easier to write down things than to talk about things. So I guess I've journaled much of my life. So now when I kind of writing my book like in short articles
Mhm.
and then pulling it all together and then just doing a big dump every so often. So when I feel like we're writing, I'll just write. It won't necessarily be in any particular order, but then I'll look back at what I've written to the book already and think, right, that now fits in there and that now fits in there. And it's mostly down to time. I work full time. I have a voluntary job at a community gym. Um, I'm teaching karate. I'm trying to do my own training, and it's just not very successful time wise. But when I do get time, it's like my brain instantly lets go of all my other responsibilities, and it's like you can write now, and that's when it happens. I'm fortunate. Maybe it's a gift and a curse. I've got a really creative brain. It's working all of the time. So the second it seems a window of silence, it just fills up. It's given me new information, new things to write, new things to think about, new things to teach. It's just hungry all of the time.
That's excellent. So when is your plan to actually publish the book? Sorry, I am renowned and not my friends who tell me that they're writing the book to push them, you need to publish it. You make sure they publish it. Because my view is because I like people's stories, there's always a space for your book. And everybody's got the book inside. They just need to type it in, publish it, and don't worry. Lots of people are afraid of how they're gonna be perceived. And I had that, and since then I learned that just what's gonna happen. In a worst case scenario, nobody's gonna buy it.
Yeah.
That's it.
It doesn't matter. I think that's where I've got to my life now. I think I've matured and found enough wisdom to think I don't actually care what anybody thinks anymore. Whereas before, there were so many barriers for me growing up and getting to here where I am today because I cared too much about what everybody else was thinking. And then you go on YouTube, you go on TikTok, you go and you think there's lots of people doing lots of mindless activity and they don't seem to care. So why should I?
Exactly. So I was gonna say something. I lost it. Oh, must have been not important. But something into
I have
relation in the
spoken to a
book.
publisher in answer to your question. I am in contact with a publisher, so it will happen, I'm sure.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to reading your story as well. I wanted to mention something and then doesn't matter. It went away. You're also writing for a Budo Mindset magazine, right?
Mhm.
If I'm
Yeah,
correct. How did you get about? Obviously, you like writing, but are you on the editorial side or are you just a contributor?
I'm just a contributor. I'm in contact with the whole team,
Hmm.
and they kind of left it for me to be available when I can be available. But like I say, when writing for them, I have lots of stuff on the go all of the time. I think, oh, that's a good thing, so I'll make a note of it, and then I'll come back to it when I can fill it out again.
Awesome. I know what I wanted to say. It always comes back. So in terms of people fearing the publishing the book, I didn't realize how many people gonna contact me that they related to my story and I
Mm.
helped them. And one in particular, one boy, man, I don't know how old he is, but your book stopped me from suicide. Just for that, publishing for the saving one person is totally worth it. So
Yeah.
publish it, make sure it's gonna go out so
I
people
think
can
people think they're
learn.
alone in the world, don't they? I think we forget that everybody's having a human experience, and everybody. If you feel sad one day, millions of people are going to be feeling sad that way. If you have a bad experience, probably somebody else has had that experience, maybe not in your shoes. And I
Mhm.
think by hearing other people's stories, you realise you're just really not alone, and other people are going through exactly what you're going through.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Can you share where people can find you, where people can listen to your podcast, where people can contact you if you want to be contacted? Uh, Budo Mindset, obviously, your articles are out there. Promote yourself.
Okay, so my podcast is called My Karate My Life. It's on YouTube at My Karate My Life.
Mhm.
It's on Spotify, My Karate My Life, and Podbean, My Karate My Life. My social media pages obviously is related to my dojo, Gambukai. So Gambukai. You can contact me through Messenger there. I'm also on Instagram, Gambukai. And you can contact me through Messenger on there as well. And on those social media pages, you'll find my email address. So I'm very easy to find, actually.
Very good. Thank you very much for your time. And guys, sign up to a podcast, listen, read the articles, and support Chrissy as much as you can on her journey in podcasting and writing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you too, Les. Nice to meet you. Take care.
Nice to meet you.